Hi, my name is John Fouché. I'm the president of People Launching, and I help people get clarity on their calling and how they are to launch their cause. We're starting a webinar on pastoral care, and I want to share with you something from that I have found helpful. This is from a woman named Missy Wallace that developed this, and I've adjusted it for our means of talking about how can we help other people during the coronavirus season. It's helpful to think about where are people, and there's a major adjustment that we're all feeling, but very differently. And if you think about it, there's two ways of thinking about this. Some of us have had our pace stop. Others of us have had our pace, our routine, increase, become very fast. While others of us have low resources, and then others of us are all the opposite, or high resources, power and privilege, maybe money in the account. You know, we can all experience this very differently. We can feel very different things, and we need to hear and see the gospel demonstrated in specific ways based on our particular experience of this situation. First of all, we can feel very destitute if we come down with the coronavirus. We can get in survival mode. Our pace almost stops because we're sick and we have very little physical resources at the time. Others of us might feel destitute because we've lost a job. And so that job is stopped and we don't have enough money in the account and we're in survival mode. And that certainly would be, I think, who my heart would go out to the most during this time. Others of us, though we still have a job or we still have our pace is still high, but we're now being exploited. We still have low resource. We're still on an hourly wage, but now we're delivering packages all day long. We're working long hours. We don't have many resources, but other people in the system in general is really using us, and we can feel that way. And yet still others of us have more resources that have got a very fast schedule, certainly those in the healthcare industry or those leading organizations like Zoom, of which I'm recording this on. Now we can feel exhausted, like the demands are really, really high. Now we have resources, but we're still exhausted. And yet there are others of us, our schedule is slowed or stopped, our routine, and we don't quite know what to do. We can strategize about what to do, about how to reposition our business during this time so that we can provide for others long-term, or how to take care of our family or the people that we love. But we're a little unclear about what we do. Well, I want to talk about what's good news and what are good works for each one of these groups, whether we're experiencing this or whether our neighbor is experiencing this, or our coworker, or somebody we love in our family. For those that are destitute, I think there's two things they need to hear and see. First, they need to hear that God will provide. We need to tell them that if they have never believed in Jesus Christ, that they can go from low resource to high resource in the area of God's love, that they can know that God is with them because Jesus Christ died on the cross for our sins and rose from the grave, that God will provide. But we want to do more than just tell them the good news. We want to show them. We want to help them. We want to provide food for them. We want to empower the powerless. And we want to back that up with action. We could provide shelter for them. We could provide grocery shopping for them. We can certainly take care of some healthcare needs or expenses for them. We want to not just share with the good news, but we want to demonstrate the good works for the destitute. For those that are exploited, we want to share the good news that God is the judge, so they don't have to be. And yet we want to advocate for them too. The good news is that God is the judge. He is the justice, the one that brings justice. And so we can take people off of our justice hook and put them on God's justice hook. We can forgive. We can give grace even though we're being exploited. We can serve without a begrudging attitude. And yet we want to show and demonstrate the good news of Jesus Christ by becoming their advocate. Certainly a prayer advocate in terms, but also it's possible that we could do more than that. We could speak up. We could speak to those in power position. We could defend, and we could work for them to make sure that they receive fair treatment. Those of us who are exhausted need to be reminded that good news is that I am not God. I cannot save anyone, and I cannot save this world from this crisis. I cannot even save myself. What God calls us to do is to work from his rest and not try to work ourselves into exhaustion. So what they need to hear, and we need to help them with this, is how do we help set them up to where their day off is truly a day off? How can we do their shopping for them? How can we care for them? How can we be the ones that help them in their time of need so that they can indeed have a Sabbath, and that Sabbath rest would be followed up with the reminder that God is on the throne. And finally, for those of us that are confused, or those who are surrounded by people that are confused, we need to remind them that because of God and because of the gifts that they've given, the resources, that they can take a loss. They can take a loss. Now, this is tough to say, and this is a tough decision to make. It's tough for all of us to take a loss, especially voluntarily. It's tough for us to say, I'm going to skip a paycheck so that the people that work for me will take a paycheck. It's tough for me to say, I'm going to take a loss from my bank account. I'm going to be able to sell some things, or I'm going to take away this time, and I'm not going to have great memories and doing sweet things, or even binging on Netflix. What I need to do is get up and figure out a way to be generous, give my time, give my energy, give my voice, give my encouragement to the other people in these three quadrants. Really, I'm not saying it all depends on that upper left to pick up the slack, but it really kind of does. You could be confused, though, and stuck in there, and not intentionally being selfish. You're just kind of overwhelmed. Well, we need to come around those people and say, it's okay, you can take a loss. You've got resources. You've got gifts that you can give. Help us. Let's calm your spirit and open up your hands and be generous. So I would encourage you to think in terms of this. It's been certainly helpful for me. I hope it'll be really encouraging for you. If you want to join our Pastoral Care webinar, the first two sessions are just on pastoral care in general, and the last two sessions have to do with the last four sessions have to do with the Enneagram. You can go to gospelenneagram.com, find out more. It's a pay what you can kind of webinar. So if you can't pay anything, that's fine. But I'd just love for you to benefit at least from the first two sessions. Feel free to jump in into part of it. Hope this is helpful.